So I've noticed there's a lot of confusion about the Dragon Ball Super manga, what the purpose of it is, who created it, who's writing it, why it even exists, and more importantly, who's really behind the moral arc and the stories in the manga. Is it Toriyama or is it Toyotaro? A lot of people have been telling me that because Viz credits Toriyama as the creator and Toyotaro as the artist, that means that Toriyama's writing the story. And I've told y'all for months now that when it comes to the moral arc, that's not really the case. Well, on this edition of Dragon Ball In Depth, I'll tell you the entire story of the Dragon Ball Super manga, when it became what it is now, how it became what it is now, who's really kind of in charge of this whole thing, who's really behind the creative aspect of it, with evidence and proof. So smash the like button for me as we discuss the truth about the Dragon Ball Super manga. So in order to discuss how things are, we have to go back and talk about how things were. A lot of people have short memories when it comes to this, but remember, the Dragon Ball Super manga, when it began back in 2015, was nothing more than a promotional vehicle for the anime. Toyotaro had been originally brought in to write a 3-part Resurrection F promotional for the film that was coming out, which did not even tell the entire story of Resurrection F. It was only a 3-part promo manga, and they wanted you to kind of read this manga if you were a V-Jump subscriber, and then go pay to see the movie in theaters to see what the final outcome of the story was. Now, originally, the Dragon Ball Super manga that Toyotaro had been brought in to draw was supposed to be something similar, but as time went by, things changed. Understand that the original story of Battle of Gods was written by Yusuke Watanabe, later on with input from Akira Toriyama, the original creator. That was the original version of the story, the movie. When Toei Animation adapted Battle of Gods and later Resurrection F to the anime, they changed things. They added things, they padded things out, things that were not in the original script, things that were in neither Yusuke Watanabe's script for the film or Toriyama's later revisions of the script, in order to take a very short story for the film and pad it out into a 14-episode anime arc. And they would do something similar with Resurrection F. Toriyama had very little input, almost none, as far as what they did with these two movie retellings. When Toyotaro began to write the Dragon Ball Super manga, he sort of went his own direction. Now, as the series progressed into the Universe 6 arc, at some point during this time, Toyotaro began to work alongside Toriyama, probably because he wanted to be not only an apprentice, not only to have Toriyama as his mentor, but to make sure he got it right. So it became abundantly clear that Toyotaro was going to do his own thing and tell his own story. And it was around this time that the manga was ahead of the anime, but as Universe 6 sort of progressed, the anime got ahead of the manga and Toyotaro was playing catch up, and it would sort of stay this way until the very end of Dragon Ball Super. Toyotaro was always behind the anime, but he began to work a lot more closely with Toriyama Sensei as far as adapting a story that would be closer to Toriyama's vision, but there was still a lot of input from Shueisha and from Toei Animation. There are various things that Toyotaro had put into the manga that were not in Toriyama's original synopsis that he submitted to Toei Animation. For example, Kefla and Kale as a character, those were not created by Toriyama, they were created by the corporation. Same thing goes with Vegito Blue being in the Zamasu battle. None of that was Toriyama's idea, but Toyotaro would take ideas and inspirations and concepts from the anime and put it into the manga because he was behind. So what we have here is we have a situation where we have essentially 3 different canons. We have the original Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods and Resurrection F movies, and it stops there. Then we have the Dragon Ball Super anime and the Dragon Ball Super manga. This is why having a canon debate about Dragon Ball Super is impossible, because what we actually have here is we have 2 different sides borrowing ideas and concepts from each other. We have a lot of corporate influence, and we have Toriyama submitting these very, very non-detailed, very sort of simplistic plot outlines that were used by both of them, both the anime and the manga, with several changes to each one. So there is no canon when it comes to Dragon Ball Super unless somebody gets a hold of these manuscripts, in which even then they're not even complete because Toyotaro and the Toei staff had to go in there and make changes. I hope you understand where I'm coming from, because this is actually how it is. In fact, Toyotaro himself says this in an interview going back to October 2016. He was asked, what is your relationship with the Dragon Ball Super anime? And his response was, at this point, I'm not very involved with it. I think going forward, I'll be more involved, which was true. But at this point in time, I actually receive more information from the anime team than I give to them. The anime is a little bit further along than I am, but in the near future, I'll be ahead, so the information will be going back to them. So right there with that interview, which was back in October of 2016, in the middle of the Trunks arc, we now confirm what I've been trying to tell y'all, and that is that both Toei Animation and Toyotaro are borrowing from each other, while Toriyama submits a very basic bullet point laden sort of plot outline without going into any details, and just letting Toei Animation and Toyotaro take care of the detail work when it comes to the story, while also adding more characters. Toriyama himself confirmed that the idea for having God Vegeta, red-haired SS God Vegeta, was a Toyotaro idea that he supervised. And if you remember, Vegeta used the red-haired God form in the manga before Dragon Ball Super Broly, and Toriyama supervised it, which is code for he approved it. So the way the creative process works with the manga is that Toyotaro, even back then, had creative input, and he would take Toriyama's ideas and sort of mold them and shape them and change them around for his story. So for a long time, it's been a collaborative effort, and the anime team is not that different. In fact, Tatsuya Nagamine, the director of Dragon Ball Super Broly, says that Toriyama was very much involved in the creation of the film. So once again, it's difficult, if not impossible, to say something is canon, because it's no longer just the original author, folks. We have multiple cooks in this kitchen. We have the very corporate Shueisha, Toei, Fuji TV, Bandai, Namco companies putting their input into the series, which is how Trunks came back and Broly came back, because it was their influence, because they know that they're popular characters, and Toriyama agreed to do it. But also we have Toyotaro sort of being Toriyama's understudy. So Dragon Ball Super is not like how Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z were back in the 80s and 90s. It's not just one man creating a story and having it adapted into an anime. Now we have a whole corporation involved. Now, I discussed in detail in the video I did several months ago about the Dragon Ball Super anime that there's a slow creative turnover going on, where it appears like now Toyotaro is gaining more power. And with the Moro arc, this is the first story that does not have a Toriyama bullet point / manuscript. It's Toyotaro's story, and Toriyama is supervising it, agreeing or disagreeing, and kind of helping out in that sense, but he's not writing the actual story. I confirmed this independently, and this was once again validated by not just that interview, but also somebody who I spoke to at Viz. Here are snippets of a conversation that I had with somebody who works on the Dragon Ball Super manga and who has very strong ties to Japan and Viz. Obviously, I will keep this person's identity private, as I always do, but these are some snippets from a conversation that I had with them in June about this whole Toyotaro-Toriyama confusion. People kept asking me, if Toriyama is not writing this arc and he is not the main creative force behind it, why is he still being credited as being the writer by Viz? So I said, well, let me ask them myself and see what answer I get. Because it is a valid question. In theory, Toriyama should no longer be credited as the creator. Starting with the Moro arc, it should be Toyotaro, or maybe just co-written or co-created by Toriyama, but instead Viz has him listed as being the author. Well, there's a few reasons for that. Number one, Toriyama is the original creator and author of Dragon Ball, and before Dragon Ball Super, there was Dragon Ball, so the characters in the world of Dragon Ball was created before Super, and thus was created by Toriyama. So Goku, Vegeta, Frieza, they are all Toriyama creations, and because of that, Toriyama will most likely always be credited as either creator or producer for anything Dragon Ball ever for the rest of mankind, because it's his baby. But the actual reason given as to why Viz won't change it over, or hasn't changed it over yet, is because Shueisha does not want them to and has not told them to from Japan. The Japanese offices have not told them to change it. But I want you to keep in mind that the person that I spoke to, I did not speak to about Dragon Ball Super the anime whatsoever, but yet they heard the exact same thing that I did about there being a creative shift behind the scenes to where Toyotaro may end up being in charge of Dragon Ball going forward, or at least having more power in Dragon Ball. This was the same thing that I said months ago. They are confirming it to me for the first time in June. So back to the question at hand. Why is it that they still continue to credit Toriyama with the writing of the manga? Well, here is the truth. Dragon Ball has become so corporate now that they are very aware of how they promote things and they know what they're doing. The reality is that in Japan, especially in Japan, if you put Toriyama's name on something Dragon Ball, it will sell. Because of the fiasco that was the Dragon Ball GT situation and how it was rejected by many fans, Toei, Shueisha, Fuji TV, Bandai insist on putting Toriyama's name on everything they possibly can do, even if he's not fully involved in it. This is why DBZ Kakarot had Toriyama's name on it. Toriyama helped a little bit, but not a lot. We know that from speaking to people independently, but the general public just sees Toriyama's name and it adds a layer of credibility and validity to the release of the product. If you are skeptical of this, go back and look at all of the theatrical trailers and promos, the original Japanese ones, for Battle of Gods, Resurrection F, and everything else that's come out. Toriyama's name is splattered all over it. Original creator Toriyama. Everything is Toriyama, 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 because they want people to know that the original creator's involved, because he is so respected in Japan that even if he's involved a little tiny bit, they're going to put him in there and give him more credit because of how legendary he's become and because they want fans to kind of view it as being more legitimate. That's how corporations work. That's how they are promoting Dragon Ball going forward. So right now, even though it's been no secret, Toyotaro is the main creative force behind the Moro arc and may end up being the main creative source behind Dragon Ball going forward. I'm not saying I like it. I'm just telling you the truth. Don't shoot the messenger. This is how it is. The torch may end up being passed to Toyotaro. Nothing is concrete yet, but that is what seems to be going on with the Dragon Ball Super Manga and with Dragon Ball effectively going forward. In fact, Toyotaro himself designed some of the gods of destruction that were used from the other universes in the Dragon Ball Super anime. So the guy's getting more and more clout within the companies, and eventually at some point he may end up being the leader of Dragon Ball. That's just how things are going to go. It could end up being a combination of him and Akio Ioku from Shueisha, or maybe Toriyama will always be involved a little bit. We don't know. We can't see the future, but there's no question that Toyotaro is the head and shoulders leader of the Moro arc, with Toriyama sort of chilling and just sort of giving Toyotaro criticism and putting in his input. It's right there in black and white, no pun intended. Thanks for watching this video. I hope that now you've been more educated as far as how it works behind the scenes with the Dragon Ball Super manga, and spread this out to those who may be confused about this. Smash that like button, spread the video out. Thank you. I love you guys, and I'll catch you down the road.